guys, and welcome back to another album review. It has been a while since the last time I did one of these. Honestly, I don't know why I keep procrastinating this kind of thing, given that I enjoy making them so much, but the last one I did was in July of last year, so it's been almost a year. So, still going through chronological order, which means we are up to Rubber Soul by the Beatles now, and that is my number one favorite Beatles album. Sgt. Pepper is a close second, but this is one I've come back to more times over than anything as the number one, so I feel like it's the one that properly holds the title for me. It's the one that I can listen to with virtually no skips. The only exception being, I feel so bad saying it is a Ringo song on it. Sometimes I skip his, I'll grant you that, I'll grant you that, but everything else on it is indispensable. So, but then again, one could say that about Sgt. Pepper. So I flip-flop on the day, but at this point, I think I've pretty much locked and loaded over the years into saying this is my favorite, although the other was a very close second, so. But anyway, so how I think I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna go through track by track, listen to it, give my thoughts on the track, listen to the next one, so on and so forth. Obviously, I can't play them here because of copyrights, but yeah, we'll splice these all together and then come up with my final rating score at the end. So, stay tuned. Okay, so the first track on the album is Drive My Car, and just from that very first opening riff, this song just slams pure energy from the first note. If you're not expecting it, although all of us know the Beatles music at this point, nobody's getting caught off guard, but if it is the first time you have heard this song in this album, good luck. You might blow your eardrums out if you have it turned way up and you didn't know. So, I knew going in, I was excited for that, but still, just everything about this song, from just the rocking vocals, to the guitar, to the drums, everything in it just screams pure energy, and it's such a great way to launch an album, and honestly, it feels so Beatles to me because you look at their discography all the way through, and it seems pretty steady that they usually start off with a nice rocker track like that. They may dip on that by the second, but the first one, virtually always, there's very few exceptions to the rule, but usually they're very good with opening like that, and it's a smart move to do it that way. You start off strong, you get the energy high, and then you coast from there. So, the second track on the album is Norwegian Wood, and I feel like, at least in my opinion, this is the most quintessential, essential Rubber Soul song on the whole thing. Like, when you think of Rubber Soul, correct me if I'm wrong, but this is the song your brain goes to first, before all else, when you think of this album, is it not? Just me? Don't know. But that, for me, is the one that is the defining song that gives the album its flavor, even though it's not like the entire album has the vibe of the song, and yet at the same time, again, you think Rubber Soul, you think Norwegian Wood. So this song's an interesting one to me because it's not the first time I ever heard a sitar in my life. That had to go to Within You Without You on Sgt. Pepper because that was my first Beatles album. But it's the first time that I enjoyed the sound of a sitar. It was the song that made me think, ooh, sitars are cool. I want to learn how to play a sitar. For the record, never have. But, but totally have always secretly wanted to because I think they're cool. But regardless, it's an interesting song, whether you take it at face value or if you dig deeper trying to go into the whole supposed alternate meaning of the song, which I didn't even realize there was an alternate meaning to the song, or that there was a controversy over this until I was in high school and had switched to independent study, and my teacher had flat out asked me about this song, what I thought it was about. And I naively took it at face value. And this is when he opened my mind to the possibility John might have burned that bitch's house down. I'm like, wait, what? And I'm just like, what are you talking about? Then he's like, look at the lyrics. So I did, and oh, you have a point. I don't think that's what they meant, but maybe. And ever since, I've kind of wondered, and no one has a definitive answer one way or the other on that. But the mystery about it, the whole mystique, I feel like kind of adds to the whole vibe of it. I don't know, I love it. I love the song, whether it be at face value or the alternate version. I don't care. I just think it's a real cool song. So the third track, You Won't See Me, is kind of an interesting one, and where I feel like my opinions on it over time have shifted with age. Because as a little kid, hearing it on the radio all the time, out of the context of Rubber Soul, just hearing it on its own getting airplay, I didn't really question what album it was from. I just loved the song, thought it was catchy, loved the harmonies in it, loved the kind of jingly guitar in it. But when I eventually got my hands on Rubber Soul, which I think I was about 14 when I got the album, hearing it in context with everything else, I don't know if it's the placement on the album. I don't know if it's just in amongst everything else that it has this quality, in my opinion. But don't hate me, I almost feel like it's just the teeniest bit out of place. It feels more like an earlier Beatles track, even though I know it's not one, but it has the vibe of being an earlier Beatles thing in amongst the more progressive moves they were making musically, if that makes sense. So for me, I don't know, even if it had been so much as like one album sooner, I feel like it would have fit in a little bit better. It even almost feels like a help song. But it's not, it's on here, and there's something about it that doesn't quite feel necessarily immature, especially if you look at the lyrics, but at the same time it doesn't quite fit the harder, slightly grittier, again, more progressive vibe that was starting to shift, starting to change with this album. And I don't know why exactly that is. I can't put my finger on exactly what it is. I don't dislike the song. Again, if taken out of the context of Rubber Soul, just listened to on its own, I love the song. But in the context of the rest of the album, of just where it sits, I don't know, something about it hits a little weird to me. Now, I don't know if something shifted for me when Linda McCartney died and all of a sudden my brain took a darker turn with this song, because that also happened to be when I was 14 and had just gotten a hold of this album. I don't know. I don't know if that's what changed. I don't know, but all of a sudden something about it just hits different and has ever since. So, I don't know. For me, again, I don't dislike the song at all. No shade against it. But just, I don't know, I feel like it's just a hair out of step with the rest of it, if that makes sense. So the fourth track on the album is Nowhere Man, and that is one of my all-time top favorite songs on the album, all-time favorite Beatles songs in general. I love this song. Even long before ever seeing Yellow Submarine, because I was the weirdo kid who actually didn't grow up with that one first. I saw Help and A Hard Day's Night before I ever saw, and Magical Mystery Tour 2 before I ever saw Yellow Submarine. I think I was like 12 by the time I finally saw Yellow Submarine. But I knew this song since I was like knee-high to a grasshopper. I guess I could probably still say that now, I'm pretty sure. But regardless, I knew it really young, and I always loved this song. Just something about the harmonies in it, just, they really resonate, hit a note with me. I love it. The lyrics in it, it's one of those things where, as a kid, I was almost self-conscious feeling like they were talking about me, but then I realized as I grew older, no, they wrote the song in a way to where this pertains to everybody in one way or another. Everybody can relate to the words of this song at some point in their life, if not always. And that's the point. We are all the Nowhere Man at various points in our lives. So then seeing him actually represented as a physical being in Yellow Submarine was kind of cool too, but I do love this song. It's one of the biggest album highlights to me. Again, both in and outside the album. Absolutely love this song. So the next song in is Think for Yourself. George gets to have a moment on this album, and it's kind of nice to see. It feels almost like the last remnants of his baby voice, as I like to call it, on this album, because by Revolver, it feels like he's come into his own. Now he's like hit his stride. He's got like his adult voice, even though, yeah, I realize he's an adult here, but you know what I mean. It's like how I call the first, I don't even know how many Eliza Minnelli's albums, her baby voice on those, her first like 5 albums. But same kind of deal. Same kind of deal. Where you can hear a difference in the voice, where there's definitely a shift. It's almost like someone flips a switch between the two. But it's kind of cute for that. I don't know. I like George's earlier songs better than the later ones. Personally, that's just me. I'm allowed to have an opinion. But between that and like the fuzzy, almost grungy kind of guitar on it that just drives the whole thing, I really like the song, and it's another one with great harmonies. That's a thing throughout this whole album that is a really nice thing that I dig, is the harmonies pretty much solidly throughout the majority of the album. You can find them all the way through. And that's not always a thing on every Beatle album, on every track. Like, it'll pop up now and again, but it's not always every song. It's almost like a graduated version of the earlier Beatles stuff, where yes, that was a thing, but it sounded younger. This is like a more matured version of that, if that makes sense, but I really like this one too. So the next track is The Word, which is another one of the harder rockers on the album. This is absolutely one of my songs on this album where it just is a crank it all the way up to 11 type of a track the minute this one comes on. It is non-negotiable. If it comes on, I am turning it all the way up no matter what I am listening to it on. It doesn't matter what hour of the day or night it is. It's happening. Deal with it. So, anyway, this one was interesting to me when I first heard it as a kid. I don't know, probably because of my upbringing, because I went to a private Catholic school. I initially took the lyrics of the song as, oh, the word, like the biblical word. Okay, so the song is about God, because God is love. That was how I initially took the song. I feel like an idiot now, because as an adult, I'm looking at it, I'm like, no, I'm adding too much context to that. I think they literally just meant it at face value. I'm an idiot. But it can work on either level. If you want it to work that way, it can be either or. And I'm sure George probably would have been pretty thrilled with that, actually. But, I think it's meant to be as is in reality. I just overcomplicate everything because that's what I do. But regardless, this one it's such a fun song. Everything from just like on the guitar, or on the piano at the beginning, just everything about it, just the maracas throughout. This is like a really heavy percussion album all the way through. I've noticed, be it from the drums, tambourine, maracas, like, they are ever present in almost every track, with the exception of the next one. But I love that. Again, as a Ringo girly, I gotta love that. But I don't know, everything about this song just, I love it. It's so delicious to me, and just, I cannot get enough of it. It would be sacrilege if I didn't give Michelle top marks, seeing as it is 100% responsible for why I have the middle name that I do. It is literally exactly what my mom named me after, so she did well. She chose the right child to give the Beatle name to, and that was before Jenny Wren was a thing, so I ended up with a 2 for later on, but even just from the word go, she knew. But this song, it's, like I said, the only one on here without really percussion besides maybe just like the hi-hat. But still, it's Paul's daft French song, as George liked to call it. But I love it so much. It's so special to me, again, partly because I'm named after it, and partly because when I was really, really little, my mom used to sing it to me for obvious reasons. Like, it has such a sweet, sentimental spot in my heart because of that. I know it's one of those polarizing songs that people either love it or they hate it, and there's no in between. I get that. I've known so many people that hate it, and I'm over here like, I'm wounded. I was named after that song, you dick. But I get both sides of the argument. I have a feeling for a lot of people it falls into that same category as Yesterday does, where it's like too saccharine-y sweet for some people, but I kind of live for that sappy stuff. So for me, even if I weren't named after it, I would adore it anyway. But the fact that I am just, it's bonus points in my book, and it's Paul singing it, and it's just very ironic that of all the Beatles songs there are, it's one of the only ones I cannot play on guitar because I can't fingerpick. And I've been trying since I was a literal child to figure this out, and I feel like a failure that I've never been able to do the thing. But anyway. So the next song on the album, incidentally, it figures right after the one of my namesake, is the obligatory Ringo track of the album. However, I have a confession to make. It is the one Ringo song that I typically skip almost every time. Don't hate me. And I feel so bad because it's like the only time you will see the album writing credit of Lennon, McCartney, Starkey. Like, how weird does that look? Am I right? But like, only one. And I'm over here skipping it almost every time. Like, even when I very first got Rubber Soul, and this was a new song to me at that point because this one does not get radio play. I think we know why. But it was genuinely new to me, and I think I went through maybe a month where I listened to it, and just, it gave me like this vibe, because of the words being as simplistic as they were. They gave me this vibe of, like, the Magic School Bus or some shit. Like, the Body Adventure episode, like, what goes on in your heart, what goes on your mind. Like, I can't unthink it ever since I thought it. And now it feels like it belongs in something like that, and it makes it weird to me. Like, it shouldn't. These cartoons didn't exist yet back then. It has nothing to actually do with them, but my brain made the association, and good luck unlinking the two now. So, but I will give credit where credit is due on this song. When people call Ringo a shitty drummer, you play them this song and you tell them to attempt to play along perfectly without slowing down, speeding up to the drumming in the song. It sounds deceptively easy, but you try to do that without speeding up, slowing down, missing a beat somewhere in the song for the entire length of it. It's harder than it sounds, so I will give credit where credit is due. But again, I have to admit, it's the Ringo song I typically skip. I know. Every once in a while, I'll just listen to it out of a sense of obligation, but usually I'm like, like, do I have to? This would be an otherwise perfect album. I feel like it was a mistake. Especially since we have heard on the anthology, they had If You've Got Trouble right there. They could have used that one. Like, flesh that one out, stick it over here, scrap that one to the anthology. Like, why? Why is this the one that made it to the album? I feel like the other was an objectively better song. I mean, some would argue stupid lyrics, but honestly, still a better song than this. So, I mean, the other one I will at least actively listen to, on purpose. I will go out of my way for it. This one, no. Sorry. So the next track on the album is Girl, which, while another slower track, I feel like this one does fit the vibe of Rubber Soul, since it's not a sitar that's on it. I think it's a mandolin. I could be wrong. But just the different sound, the experimentation that they're doing with different instruments here, it comes through on this one. It almost comes through with like a Russian vibe or something because of it. It's interesting. It kind of like paints a whole picture without necessarily having to spell it out for you. Half through the instrumentation and half through the lyrics. It's really interesting, and again, I love the song a whole lot. I know that some people they are not into this one and cannot with it, but I cannot with those people. I don't understand why people dislike this one. It's so good. It's such a good song. Okay, so the next track is I'm Looking Through You, and this is my other track that I'm just a little tepid with it. I don't dislike it. I mean, it's a catchy song. It's a fun song. But there's something about it that I can't quite put my finger on what it is. But something about it feels unfinished. You know, like, this feels like something that would have shown up on the anthology in this state. Like, yes, I know there are versions of the demos of this on the anthology, but I mean this version feels like it belongs there. Because it feels like they could have kept working on this one. They could have fleshed it out further. They could have done more with it. It feels half-baked. It doesn't feel quite done. Especially when looking at everything else on this album and the level that they're all at. And then there's this, standing out like a sore thumb. So, I don't know. Like I said, it doesn't feel quite done to me. But it's not bad, and I don't dislike it. The only thing that my brain associates with it that's, like, negative, though, is a me thing. And that's not the fault of the song, it's not the fault of the Beatles, it's not the fault of anyone but me, but the day my first cat died, for whatever reason, I went into full emo kid mode, and of all the songs, why this is the one I put on loop? I don't know, and it stuck with me to this day because I did that, unfortunately. Now my brain's like, oh, the Dead Cat song. It's like, why? Why did I do that to myself? Like, I don't think I knew at that age that I wasn't going to be able to unlink that from it in my head. But here we are. So, you know, there's that. I don't know. I don't know what the intention was there. I don't know what the line of thinking was there and why that song, out of all the songs it could have been, I went with that one. I don't know. I don't know if it was just the where did you go? I don't know. I've tried to figure this one out ever freaking since, and I have never really been able to tell why this one. Oh, God. Anyway. Yeah, that is 100% a me problem, though, and I'm not counting that against it in my objectivity, but it felt worth noting just because I can't unthink it when I hear this damn song, and I hate that my brain links it with that. This is why I am so cautious now when there is, like, new Beatle anything, or of any of my faves, really, that come out. If I have, like, something traumatic that just happened in my life around that same time, I will intentionally put off listening to or watching that thing until the crisis is well past, because my brain is just like that. It'll forever link it to that thing, and it'll put a damper on it for freaking ever. I've had it happen with way too many things now, guys, so at this point I'm kind of, like, overly cautious and overly paranoid with it, and it's definitely why I still haven't watched Get Back. Yeah, I know, I suck. This'll be the year I fix it. Probably. Unless I don't. So the next song is In My Life, and when pressed to give just a single favorite Beatles song, which for me is so hard because I love most of them, and it depends on the day, one will rank above the others on it. It'll change from day to day, but if I have to give just one, it's like the solid answer. This is my default answer that I go to every time. And just, even though it does tend to often make me cry, because I'm a sensitive, sentimental little thing, and it just hits right in the feels after losing so many people, it's one of those songs that I feel like it's written away so universally to where there is not a person alive who cannot resonate with and relate to this song. I even wrote like a long introspective essay when I was about probably 18, 19 years old about the way this song just, it's so expertly written in that way to where it fits everyone. I wish I still had it. I don't, unfortunately, but if by some act of God, some miracle, it turns up somewhere, I'll read it on this channel at some point, but I don't think there's any remaining copy of it. But, yeah, just everything about this song just the way that the chords are played in it, to the little harpsichord in the middle, the harmonies, the lyrics, everything about it just tugs right at the heartstrings. It's so sentimental. I'm trying not to cry right now. And it's one of those songs where you just know, listening to it, that's like, probably a million different people have had this played at their funerals, haven't they? It just, oh, it hurts, but on the other hand, it hurts in a good way, though. Like, you know how, like, you can have a good cry? Like, it's like that. It's like that. But just, I love this song so much because it hits in the feels so hard. It makes you feel a thing. Even if you don't want to feel a thing, it makes you feel a thing. So I know, again, not everybody's into that, but some of us kind of live for that, so. So the next song in is a higher energy one. Thank goodness, you need something to pull you back up after that emotional just falling off of a cliff. And it is Wait, which, it's kind of an interesting song when you listen to it. Like, I don't know if anyone else does this, but like, do you ever go through a song and play it over and over, but each time you listen to it, you listen to like specifically a different part? Like, you specifically listen to like one person's vocals, or you specifically listen to just the guitar, or you specifically listen to like specifically the drums, or like etc, etc. You know what I mean, right? Autistic thing, probably. Yeah, I know, go ahead and tell me. But I know, but I do that. I do that a lot. But in listening to it just now, in doing that, right before giving my thoughts on this one, I noticed something I've never noticed before tonight. And it's like, the guitar part during the verses, I never noticed how just like sharp and almost muted it is on like burp, 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 burp. Like, I somehow have never noticed that before. And it's not until it hits the chorus that they're like properly played chords, albeit even, I hate to say it, almost a little bit sloppily in spots, but like, I have never noticed that in all the years I have listened to this album, and it's one of my favorite tracks on the album. How have I never noticed that? It just blends and gels with like the rest of the track so well to where it just, it's not that noticeable unless you go looking for it. It's so weird. And I don't know if that's just because it's the 2009 mix that I'm listening to in this version. I should like go back through and find like my 80s CD copy and see if it sounds different, because I know that they sound very, very different from each other, but I am interested now to hear specifically the guitar part now on that, to see, was it always like that? I feel like that's different. Is that one of the things they updated? Like, I don't know. But regardless, it is a fun song, though. And it goes by entirely too fast. It's one of those songs that I wish were longer, even though it would probably feel too long if it were. It's probably just right in reality, but it leaves you wanting for more. Your ear wants more of that. It wants more of the harmonies. It wants more of just all of it, or at least mine does. But yeah. So the next track is If I Needed Someone, and the interesting thing for me personally is that my introduction to this song wasn't through this album. It was through the concert for Budokan. So every time I hear mention of the song, what my brain defaults to first is the concert for Budokan rather than the actual album in which it came from, because I had access to that far earlier than I had access to this, which is funny to me, but I had never heard that song before seeing that concert, and then it was my only way of listening to that song until I eventually ended up with this, like 5 years later. So, anyway, the other really interesting thing to me with this song, remember how I just said, earlier on this album, the other George song on it, it sounds like it's with his baby voice? Compare that song to this song. I feel like this one sounds more matured. Even though they couldn't have been filmed, or well, not, but recorded that far apart. How is that possible? Make that make sense to me. I don't get it. I really, truly don't. But, like, genuinely, he sounds so much older on this one to me. And I don't know why. I love the jangly guitar on this one. It sounds like the birds and like the whole summer of love type guitar sound that was everywhere in the 60s, even though this was technically before the summer of love. Doesn't matter. You know exactly what I mean. The sound I'm talking about. It's got that sound to it, just that quintessentially 60s sound. Yeah. And I'm pretty sure he's one of the ones that started, if not the one that started that. So there you go. But that's a good song. It's a good song. It's one that I feel like doesn't get enough love as far as George's songs go. It tends to get swept under the rug and forgotten about until you go through Rubber Soul and find again, and it's like, oh yeah, that's a really good song. I like that song. But then when you think of what George songs you like the best, who comes up with this one first? No one. Everybody forgets it. Everyone forgets it until you come back to hear it, until you hear it played somewhere, and then, oh yeah, I like that song. It's one of those, and it's a shame because it's a really good song. in conclusion, I was taking my notes of how I was scoring the different songs on here. I think I'm going to rate Rubber Soul as an 8.5 out of 10. Pretty damn high. Even though it is my favorite, I can still be objective and find a few things that I wish were better about it, but it is still my favorite, hands down. Just saying. Flaws and all. Flaws and all. So, those are my thoughts on it. I would love to hear yours. But anyway, you guys know what to do. If you like this video, go ahead and give it a like. If you're not already and you'd like to be, click subscribe, hit that notification bell icon so you never miss an upload, leave comments down below. Make sure you're following my social media accounts, my Facebook fan page, my Twitter, my Instagram, my eBay, my Reddits, everything and more. It's all down below. And if you like what I do here on this channel and you'd like to help support it, the donation link, as always, is down in the description. Anyway, guys, till next time, see ya.